I've done this before twice already, these kind of turnarounds where a team was down and you walk in year one, just completely turn it around. And, in my mind, it was a chance to do it on the biggest stage. You look at my history, and a lot of the assistant coaches have been with me the whole time. Mm-hmm. We win. And this history is about the opposite. So something's got to give. They tell me that in the interview.
They left that part out?
They left that out.
Next up. Before we get to the podcast, I got to tell you guys about our new sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is my favorite way to get action on sports. And I've tried all the different apps, daily fantasy, sports betting. Prize Picks is the very best. So on Prize Picks, you pick players instead of teams. So if you know how players are going to perform, you can make tons of money on Prize Picks. On Prize Picks, each player has a set stat projection, and you pick more or less on that number. So for example, Steph Curry, more or less than 20 points. If you think he's going to have more, you pick more. If you think he's going to have less, you pick less. And when you're right, it hits. You pair that with a few other players, you can make up to 100x your money. And the best part is I have a 100% deposit match up to $100 for all of you with code ADAMB or the link in the description. So if you put in $100 on Prize Picks, they will match that $100 for you. So then you get $200 to play with. So use code ADAMB for that 100% deposit match up to $100. Link in the description. And guys, supporting our sponsors helps me a ton, allows me to put the show on, travel around the country. So it would mean a lot to me if you'd support Prize Picks by clicking that link, using code ADAMB when you download the app and get that free $100 deposit match. Let's go talk to Coach.
Coach, I appreciate you doing this. I'm excited to have you on. I've since you're a Pennsylvania guy especially, I've wanted to come talk to you, and I followed your career at IUP and James Madison and now here, so I'm excited to have you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. I want to start with this. All the success that you had and all the success at James Madison specifically, you had a lot of opportunities. What made this place, Indiana, the job that you ultimately wanted to take?
Well, I really wasn't looking to leave JMU. I loved it there, and I figured I'd retire there.
Yeah.
It was close to our family, close to where I grew up, which was really Morgantown, even though I was born in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I liked it there. My wife liked it there. We'd had a lot of success. Football was changing.
Yeah.
As we all know, the dynamics of FBS football. And, Indiana came calling, and that Big Ten contract that they signed, the TV contract, less than 2 years ago, really caught my attention at the time. And it became very apparent that the Big Ten and the SEC were going to be the two big players in Power 4 football. So, I looked at Indiana. I'd been here a couple times before as an assistant coach at NC State and even at Rice back in 1987. And really liked it when I was here. Thought the campus was beautiful. I remember good teams, Mallory's teams, and of course in 19 and 20, the COVID year, they had a really good team. And I felt like, I've done this before twice already, these kind of turnarounds where a team was down and you walk in year one, just completely turn it around. And, in my mind, it was a chance to do it on the biggest stage. Now, I wasn't necessarily looking to make a move, but, Scott Dolson, the athletic director, Pam Whitten, the president, I had a really strong feeling coming out of our conversation, multiple conversations, in a very short period of time. This happened over 3 days.
Wow.
That there was a commitment to really get football going here, which obviously the history of Indiana football is not very good.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe any Power 4 program, especially a state institution like Indiana, that has the state's name on it, with the proper commitment, can be successful. Yeah. With the right leadership and the right people.
Yeah.
So it was a hard decision, but we did it. And then, we got here and 10 offensive starters in the transfer portal and half your defense. They tell me that in the interview.
They left that part out?
They left that out. And so, December was, 4 a.m. to 11 at night, portal madness. Yeah. But, in 3 weeks, we flipped the roster. I brought 22 transfers in. And, really has helped us make, I think, very significant progress since we've been here. It's something you can't measure because we haven't played a game yet.
Yeah.
But the talent on the roster and the culture in the program are significantly different than it was when I stepped on campus.
Yeah. Take me through that first. You just mentioned having 10 starters in the portal. When you get a Power 4 head coaching job, the first couple weeks, the craziness of retaining your own roster, evaluating the recruiting class, hiring a staff, figuring all. I mean, you're moving across the country somewhat. What was that process like for the first few weeks? Had to be wild.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was busy, but I'd done it a few times. Now, this is the first time I'd done it with the portal and NIL.
Yeah.
That was the new multiple.
Yeah.
The first thing I always do day one is I'll ask the old staff the day before I get there to rank the players that are coming back, returning 1 to 50, and get a composite. So I get a feel for who's what.
Yeah.
And, and then you interview the old staff, make your notes, and you're hiring a staff at the same time.
Yeah.
And then talking to current players that are in the portal and also watching their tape to make decisions on, are these the kind of guys that you want in your program. So the one thing about having that many guys in the portal is, about half of them you're happy they're in the portal.
Stay there.
Or more. Yeah. And we kept about half the guys we wanted to.
Uh-huh.
And it gave you the ability to bring a lot of new faces in, which, in this particular situation, that was a good thing if you could bring the right people in.
Yeah.
And we were able to add a pretty significant nucleus from where I had come from. Now, that was not planned.
Yeah.
Because we lost very few guys in the portal when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
But this seemed to be the year where the players had it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look across the country, when a head coach leaves, a very large percentage of players enter the portal.
Yeah.
So, my thing was if I don't recruit them, somebody else is going to.
Yeah.
And I needed them.
Yeah.
But we were also able to add a lot of other players that were 2-3-year starters at other P4 or G5 schools.
Yeah.
And we're, so we had brought 28 new guys in, 22 transfers, and 6 high school mid-year guys. And I've added, about 7 since spring ball ended too.
Yeah. Well, you obviously seen what winning looks like at a really high level. So when you got here, that first month on the job, what was the one thing where you said, we need to fix this right away, or the thing that maybe surprised you the most?
The first thing you got to do is change the way people think.
Yeah.
You got a blueprint, you got a plan, you got a process, you know what you want to do every day. But you got to change the way people think. People inside and outside the program.
Yeah.
Which, I got them all riled up at the basketball game my first night, which
I saw that, yeah.
That really wasn't very typical of me and my history, but, I sensed in this particular situation, I needed to stir things up a little bit here. And because obviously we're coming from places where we've been very successful.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at my history, and a lot of the assistant coaches have been with me the whole time. We win. Yeah. And this history is about the opposite. So something's got to give, and it wasn't going to be me. So,
Yeah.
Sometimes there has to be a little kind of conflict for progress to be made.
Yeah. What is that formula? I mean, again, having the success at D2, FCS, and now this level, what is the formula when someone asks, what's your winning formula?
Real quick, before we get back to the pod, I gotta tell you about our newest sponsor, Chubbies. Summer is right around the corner, and our friends at Chubbies are bringing the good vibrations. See what I did there? Chubbies is a lifestyle apparel brand that makes every moment feel like vacation. I've always heard that fashion is an expression of one's character, so why not let the world know you're down for a good time? Chubbies offers a variety of high-quality men's apparel, from super stretchy shorts and swim trunks in 3 different lengths, to pants, polos, and button-down shirts for when you gotta hit your favorite weekend brunch spot. Embrace the spirit of endless summer with Chubbies, the ultimate destination for bold, vibrant, and outrageously comfortable clothing. Chubbies sent me some great stuff that I've been wearing. First, this shirt. I mean, you stand out when you wear this thing. Great material. And the best part, for a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your order with an exclusive code NEXTUP at chubbiesshorts.com. That's code NEXTUP at chubbiesshorts.com for 20% off your order. That link's in the description as well. But guys, you supporting our sponsors allows me to do this podcast, helps me a ton. So please go support Chubbies by placing an order at chubbiesshorts.com. Code NEXTUP for 20% off.
Okay, well, I got to go back to the background. You know, son of a coach. My dad was a Hall of Fame college coach. You know, I was the kid in third grade
at
on the
IUP, right?
sidelines at West Virginia.
West Virginia, got it.
Yeah, I was a kid on the sidelines in third grade. Bobby Bowden's first head coaching job. My dad's his OC.
Yeah.
You know, watching the game in the locker room at halftime, listening to Bobby talk to the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, my dad succeeded him. I had the opportunity to be with other great coaches along the way. And then, you know, when I went with Coach Saban, Nick, the first year he went to Bama, I was part of his original staff.
Mm-hmm.
So from the ground floor, that was a great learning opportunity. He was in his 11th or 12th year as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in our first year at Alabama, we're 7-6. You lose to ULM at home, about the 11th game of the year. But the next year we went undefeated.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really felt like after 1 year I'd learned, you know, probably more about how to really run a program, A to Z, the previous 24 as an assistant. And I was ready to go. And I made an unprecedented move after 4 years. You know, I took a D2 head job, which you don't see that in this profession, but I bet on myself.
Yeah.
Because I won. It's all I ever wanted to do since I was young, was be a head coach.
Yeah.
But I wasn't on that track as an assistant, and I took a chance. And I took a chance with a son that was a freshman in college, 2 girls in high school that went to med school. And so we had big bills coming in. I took a big pay cut.
Yeah.
So, you know, you jump into a head coaching job, you're going to make mistakes year 1 and 2. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But at that level, I probably had the benefit to learn from my mistakes and overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, by about year 4 or 5 or 6, I mean, got it down pretty good.
Yeah.
And, you know, you go to a place like Elon that was about 7-47. Mm-hmm. And, you know, after 9 games, you're 8-1. Played JMU for the conference championship and beat them up there the next year. And, you know, the JMU. So that's a long roundabout answer to your question, which I haven't even answered. You got to have a blueprint and a plan. And it's a process. You got to work it every day. You know, highly structured and organized. It's about recruiting and development. But now you add retention to that mix with NIL and the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And it's all about people. You got to bring the right people through the door, coaches and players, and create an environment where they can thrive and become the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And have a plan for, you know, how you're going to develop them in the weight room, on the practice field, and strategically ODK.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of what I do were things that I did learn at Alabama, but there's quite a bit of things that are different, too. So you tweak it to your personality.
Yeah. I read that at Bama you coached Julio Jones and recruited Mark Ingram. Is that true?
I did coach Julio Jones, was involved in Mark Ingram and Dante Hightower's recruitment.
Wow. Has anything changed about that formula as you've gone up in the levels, like from the D2 formula to the FCS formula to now the Power 4 formula?
Well, I think you get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. So yeah. I think everybody, you know, this is a business where the margin for error is very slim, and you're always looking for better ways to do things. And you can't ever get complacent. Yeah, let's just face it. You're either getting better or you get worse. You never stay the same. And if you're comfortable, then you're not getting better, and somebody's catching you.
Yeah.
Right, and passing you up. So my big thing is to always have a sense of urgency every second, minute, hour of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm also, you know, a big believer, if you're organized and structured, that you don't need to spend, you know, 18 hours in the office every single day.
Yeah.
24/7, 365.
Yeah. What's your recruiting pitch when you're talking to a kid in the portal or a high school kid about why to choose Indiana right now?
Well, portal guys looking to play.
Yeah.
So you got to have a need, a position need, and NIL is very important too.
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at your background. A lot of them know what you've done in the past, and geographic still plays a role. I've been fortunate that I take a job like this, and we had a lot of guys from my old place that wanted to come, and it's helped us. Mm-hmm. And as we get better and win, then everything else will improve, mm-hmm. right? So we have no self-imposed limitations on what we're going to accomplish short and long term, but we also have to produce on the field this fall, which we will.
Yeah. I feel like one of the big balances for head coaches, especially with the portal right now, is how do you balance the need to win right away, which a lot of times comes from portal players or taking portal kids, versus building the program for the long term with high school recruits. And how do you balance that when you're managing your roster?
Yeah, I think football's really changed. Back in the old days, guys would get 4 to 6 year contracts, and by year 3 would want to be here. You got to win every year nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, with the internet and social media, you got to win every year.
Podcasts.
Yeah, you got to. Period. Every year to me is like 4 years in the past.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then the more you win, all of a sudden the wins aren't pretty enough. But that's just the nature of the business.
Yeah.
Here's what I'd say about that is I think you always want to sign 15 to 20 high school kids. Mm-hmm. Always. And then you're always going to be in the portal to fill immediate needs. Mm-hmm. But you can't say that, we're going to do it with high school kids because they may leave.
Yeah.
That's just how it is nowadays.
Yeah.
It's free agency.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things have changed in the last 2 or 3 years. You got to be light on your feet, flexible and adjust, improvise.
Yeah.
And thrive, or you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to tell you guys about our new sponsor of the podcast, Mando. Listen, I meet about 10 new people a week as a college football analyst, entrepreneur. When I'm on the road, I always got to be looking and smelling my best. You guys know how important it is to smell your best. That's why I'm a huge fan of Mando. Mando is powered by mandelic acid, a mild alpha hydroxy acid that blocks the bacteria responsible for causing body odor. I can be on the road for some long days, so I got to block that body odor. Mando's unique formula stops odor at the source so you can stay fresh and confident for as long as humanly possible everywhere, even when I'm in South Florida. And it's not just your armpits. Whether you prefer the convenience of a stick or the smooth application of a cream, Mando has you covered. And since I'm on the go so much, Mando's wipes are the perfect solution for a quick refresh. With Mando, you can say goodbye to the embarrassing body odor and say hello to a new level of freshness and confidence. Control your body odor anywhere with Mando and get $5 off your starter pack. That's over 40% off with promo code NEXTUP at shopmando.com. That's promo code NEXTUP for $5 off your order at shopmando.com.
Yeah. You mentioned Coach Saban and being with him for that first tenure that he had at Bama. What's the biggest lesson you learned from Coach Saban during that time?
He just had a plan for it.
Yeah.
Managing the staff, messaging with the team, how to practice, recruiting philosophy, what you were looking for at every position, how to structure the day, the month, week, year.
Yeah.
Great work ethic. He could really compartmentalize smart game day strategy, and the big thing with him was avoiding complacency.
Yeah.
Because when you win that much, you can't let it set in.
True.
Because the margin for error is very slim.
Yeah.
There were so many things, and probably so many more I could have didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're dealing with your current team, you just got done spring practice, and you're having to change that mindset, that culture, to get to that winning, the new Indiana mindset, as I've heard people talk about. What are the specific things you do with your players to try to get them to kind of shift that mindset?
Well, everything we do, we have high standards and expectations.
Yeah.
And the standards can never be compromised. And there has to be accountability throughout the entire organization, coaches and players. And because 95% of it really is between the years.
Yeah.
And it's a daily process. And you just stack good days.
Yeah.
And, I feel like we've really come a long way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think as a coach you're ever pleased.
Yeah.
Can't be. And we're not there yet. but nobody in America is there yet because everybody in America has got a new roster to some degree nowadays. But I like the direction we're heading and really excited about the future.
What does your evaluation process look like as a staff? I think that's kind of an interesting part of college football, is like having to evaluate the transfer recruits, the high school players, and how you make decisions based on who you're offering, who you're actually going to take. What's the process like at Indiana for that?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably pretty similar across the country. At this level, you got a lot more people in your organization. You've got a college personnel guy. You got a personnel guy for high school. You got somebody in charge of both those guys, staff in some back office helping make tapes. And it still is, the position coach, the coordinator, area coach. I'll sign off on everybody. I always have, always will. But you gotta stay true to your beliefs, and it's not a perfect science. Everybody in America will make mistakes. There's still a lot of unknowns with high school kids. Probably a little easier to hit on the portal guy, who has a history of success at this level, than the high school guy. But I think what you were getting at before is you got to have that foundation of good high school guys, and then the portal guys feel.
And the big challenge I feel like in evaluating is always like the potential upside versus the player that may not have this. You got a corner with 6'2" with long arms, but has his high school film's like not great, but you think he can get there, versus the guy who's 5'11" that runs a 4.5, 4.6. But do you say in a class, like, we're going to take a shot on this amount of guys, but then be conservative on this amount? Because a lot of it's about just mitigating risk. How do you kind of balance that when you're making?
I think every position's got position-specific characteristics. And toughness is number one at all positions.
True.
But then ankle, knee, hip flexibility at all positions, because it's a start-stop game. That's how you change directions, how you develop explosive power. At wide receiver, balanced body control, ball skills. Every position's got its own position-specific criteria, right? Offensive lineman, let's face it, has to be a certain size to have a chance to be successful. What you really can't measure, and this is what's important to me, is what drives a guy. What's his why? How motivated? Is he committed? Is he disciplined? What kind of family does he come from? What kind of habits has he formed at a young age? Right and wrong, could be freedom of choice, but not freedom of consequence. What are you getting? What are you buying? Right? I'm into production over potential. I learned that a long time ago. I made a lot of mistakes young as a recruiting coordinator, way back. I like to see it on film. I'm old fashioned. I mean, I'll look at the transcript. Guy got a lot of absences. These might not be for us.
How's the NIL support been at Indiana?
It's really good. It's it's a lot more than what I was promised. That way.
Great. And is how do you balance that then with your own roster versus having to use it in the portal and managing the expectations of players on your team and taking care of those guys, but also having to use it when you're talking to big time transfers?
Well, I think that's an issue probably a lot of coaches face, because it seems if a guy goes in the portal, his dollar value increases. And I was in a situation where we probably were 38 to 40 scholarships at one point. We had so many guys in the portal. Right? And so, it takes a good NIL opportunity to bring good players in. And, so those guys were able to kind of command some great opportunities. But I think throughout kind of the process, you try to smooth it out as much as you can. I don't think it's ever perfect. But it is what it is.
I have a lot of young coaches that watch this podcast when I talk to head coaches. So I want to ask you, what do you look for when you're evaluating a young coach and saying this guy can become a position coach or this guy's going to become a coordinator? What are the traits you're looking for in coaches?
Always looking for character, a guy that's eager, intelligent, no task too small or too big. My dad told me a long time ago when I was getting in coaching, only get in it, but you can't live without it.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for, a young, eager, industrious guy.
Yeah.
That has good communication skills and a presence.
Yeah.
And understands that it's a learning process.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've received in your career?
Wow.
Tough one.
That's a hard. Maybe what I just told him.
Yeah.
Before I started, my dad said, "Going in if you can't live."
Yeah. Is there when you were at the IUP, the D2 schools, is there a lesson that you learned during that time when you had to kind of do more with less talent that kind of has helped you throughout your career? Like when you had to be at those kind of lower levels that you learned about?
I think then as I moved up to Elon, who had nice facilities for nursing the school, and then on to James Madison, who had a great fan base, and we had tremendous support. We had resources. And then, you come here to just appreciate these things.
Yeah.
Because at that level, you might be in the playoffs, it might be Thanksgiving, and the school's shut down, and you're taking the trash out before the staff meeting or waxing the staff table, and, things like that.
Yeah.
But, I've enjoyed every place I've ever been.
Yeah.
It's been sort of an unorthodox journey for me, relative to maybe what most people kind of experience, the way they progress.
Yeah.
But I think it's been very beneficial for me.
Yeah.
My journey has been very beneficial in terms of taking from every place.
Yeah. What are the few things that you think still need to happen in order for Indiana and this place to get to where you want it to be?
It's a daily process.
Yeah.
We got to get the players back here on May 20th, get them back in the weight room, out on the field running, and go out there and play like I expect us to play.
Yeah.
And continue to increase funding in areas that are critical to team success. And let's face it, right now, football brings the money in across the country. Over 80% of athletic revenue at Power 4 level comes from football. You've got to be good in football. Our president understands that. She's been at Georgia.
Yeah.
She's been at Michigan State. Our athletic director understands that. And so we just have to continue pushing here and never get comfortable or feel like we've arrived.
Yeah.
Because once you do that, it's over.
Yeah. You brought in a transfer quarterback, Kurtis Rourke from Ohio. I called one of his games last year. He's a great player. What have you seen from him since he's been here?
Guy's played a lot of football.
Yeah.
Smart, experienced, knows how to play the position, knows how to handle success and failure.
Yeah.
He orchestrated a lot of 2-minute drills for touchdowns, won a lot of football games.
Yeah.
Veteran guy, savvy, good arm.
Yeah.
Surprising mobility, can surprise you with his
looks. Yeah. You've been around a lot of great quarterbacks. Is there a specific trait that you look for in quarterbacks you're evaluating?
What makes them special, I guess? I mean, our last 4 quarterbacks were player of the year in the conference.
Yeah.
All 4 at JMU were. And they all had their critics before the season started.
Yeah.
And they were all different. We've had a classic drop back, a duel, and somewhere in between, and then you build around them.
Yeah.
So, Tino Sinceri, my quarterback coach, does a great job.
Yeah.
Well as Mike Shanahan, a coordinator. I've got a quarterback background. You build around the quarterback.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that our quarterbacks will be successful here this fall.
Yeah. I talk a lot on this podcast about adversity in your career, and anyone who's reached a level of success or a high level of success has gone through some adversity at some point. Is there a moment in your career where you have faced some adversity, and how'd you overcome it ultimately?
I think all of us face adversity every single day.
Yeah.
Week, month, year, right?
Yeah.
Part of being successful is overcoming obstacles, persevering, overcoming adversity, learning from failure, coming back stronger from failure, and not being affected by success.
Yeah.
staying humble and hungry every single day.
Yeah.
And high achievers and strivers understand that, and that's why they get to that point.
Yeah.
So, and you got to be driven. If there's certain levels in life, if you want to attain professional success, where you've got to make a commitment and a sacrifice that are unusual, special, be able to say no, and you can't have it all.
Yeah.
If you want to be normal, that's fine. But, as the guy down in Tuscaloosa used to say, normal equals average.
Yeah.
If you want to be great,
you
got to do some special things to be great.
Yeah. Last question I got for you, Coach. Appreciate your time. You talked about players needing to have a why. And I want to ask you, what's your why? What's the reason that you wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and do the things that you do?
I like winning, and I hate losing. And, I think ever since I was a little kid, this is what I wanted to do. And be good at it. I could have stayed at a place and won a lot of games.
Yeah.
200 games, had a great record. And, now I'm at a place where a lot of people look at and say they can't get it done.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
To me, you only grow when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think this is just such a great challenge that gets me excited every morning.
Yeah.
Because, it's so doable.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing, to be in an organization where everybody's believing and thinking alike, and then achieve things that people think can't be done.
Yeah. Awesome. Coach, I appreciate your time. I'm excited to see all the success you're going to have here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Coach.